To Professor Barton, the presiding officer of these proceedings, to Provost Lomote, and to my colleagues on the dais, and to members of the class of 2003 and beyond. Good afternoon. This is an historic occasion because you, the freshman class, is the last freshman class of this century. And you've made a great decision, it seems to me, that you have taken the opportunity to pursue higher education. It is an historic occasion for Medgar Evers College because this is the last fall semester of this century. Each of you has made an important decision, and we are proud that you have decided to come to Medgar Evers College and to use this great institution as your vehicle of transformation. For you see, education has the capacity to transform an individual or people and a nation. And it seems to me that all of you have come to have your lives transformed, to acquire the skills and the knowledge that will be necessary for you to compete successfully in the third millennium. And I say to all of you that education is the last equalizer left in our society. It is the door that opens the opportunity to the good life. So you have chosen wisely to pursue higher education, and I think just as importantly, you have chosen Medgar Evers College. We hope that you will have a stimulating and challenging experience as you go through this institution with the whole notion of graduating in the year 2003 and beyond. The central thought that I would like to share with you today is a view to the 21st century, revolution or evolution. Revolution or evolution. Time wrote the famous American philosopher, Idler Henry David Thoreau, "Time is but the stream that I go fishing in." We all go fishing in that same stream, and what we catch depends to a large degree on what we are fishing for and what kind of bait we are using. That is, what is your objective for coming to Medgar Evers College? What are the strategies that you are going to use to achieve those objectives? So as we think about time, think of it in this way. Imagine there is a bank that credits your account each morning with $86,400. It carries over no balance from day to day. Every evening, it deletes whatever part of the balance you fail to use during the day. What would you do if you had this opportunity? You would draw it all out, would you not? And spend it. Because at the end of the day, if you have not used those dollars, they are deleted. Each of us, it seems to me, has a bank. Its name is time. Every morning it credits you with 86,400 seconds. And every night it writes off as lost whatever part of this you have failed to invest in good purposes. It carries over no balances. It allows no overdrafts. It allows no bad checks to be drawn. Each day it opens a new account for you. Each night it burns the remains of the day. If you fail to use the day's deposit, the loss is yours. There is no going back. There's no drawing against the tomorrow. You must live in the presence on today's deposit. So I suggest to you, invest it so as to get the most from it, to get the most in health, happiness, and success. The clock is running. Make the most of it. To realize the value of 1 year, ask a student who failed a class. To realize the value of 1 week, ask the editor of a weekly newspaper. To realize the value of 1 hour, ask the lovers who are waiting to meet. To realize the value of 1 minute, ask a person who missed the train. To realize the value of 1 second, ask a person who avoided an accident. To realize the value of 1 millisecond, ask the person who won the gold medal in the Olympics. So what I'm saying to you this afternoon is to treasure every moment that you have. And remember that time waits for no one. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift, and that is why it is called the present. Time is relative to our experience. For instance, we have been trained to think of the past as a sequence of events and to think of history as a consequence of those events. We often have been so overwhelmed and dazzled by the sequence-oriented view of the past that we have failed to notice what we have been missing. History as an experience has shaped our present, and that will bear heavily on our future. We live in a world of the contemporary. We see ourselves as dominated by events that happen at one time in our time, yet we are charmed, enticed, and even threatened by the uncertainties of the future. In truth, we are inextricably tied to the past, even as we struggle with the present and speculate on the future. The quality of the education that you have received before influences where you are today at Medgar Evers College. The past you cannot escape. The question becomes, what are you going to do with the future, the present? Needless to say, we are not the only one who have faced this paradox. It has been a defining moment for every generation that has stood at the end of one century and looked forward with bright-eyed optimism to the next. We then are the children of our times. We are on a collision course with our date with destiny. It has all come down to a matter of months, weeks and days before we enter a new century, the 21st century. I, like you, am excited about this new age we're entering. I have great hope for us as a people, as a nation, as a race of human in this new age. But what will it bring? What will be your place in it? Will things change? Will progress be made towards a more and just and equitable existence for everyone? These are the questions that cannot be answered yet. After all, none of us are prophets, but we can speculate that without some kind of catastrophe, without some kind of movement, without some kind of revolutions, things might just stay the same. But we cannot afford to let that happen. Above all else, we must work to change the status quo. We must devise, you must devise, a plan that will guarantee yourselves a place in the new millennium. The only question is, will it be a revolution or evolution that brings about the change we are seeking? To answer that question, perhaps we need to put a few things in historical perspective. By the reckoning of our system of timekeeping, the first century and the first millennium began with the birth of Christ, and that is not to say there were no significant historical events before Christ was born, rather that his birth and death were significant events that we set our calendars by, no matter what your religion and persuasion. The first millennium was characterized by wars and conquests. Great empires sprung up only to be conquered by one enemy or another. It seems that for the first 1,000 years of the human race after the birth of Christ, the human race did nothing but make war against each other. In between the wars, however, some other events of great historical importance did happen. The written word was published. The art and sciences were established. Musical instrument appeared along with art, theater, philosophy, and politics thrived. Schools were built and formal education began. Theories concerning the origin of humankind and our place in the universe were formulated. The second millennium, the millennium in which we are now living, brought more of the same with some variation on the theme. In our time, we've seen revolutions, assassinations, moonwalks, civil strife, nuclear proliferation, famine, economic turmoil, women's rights, unimagined scientific advances, empires collapsing, and the birth of the information age. The 20th century was also characterized by wars, conquerors, and conquests. How the art, the theater, philosophy, and politics reached unprecedented heights. On some levels, human beings thrived and became enlightened. The sciences flourished, and we learned more about ourselves, our origin, our place in the universe than we ever knew. On other levels, we seem to be regressing backwards. For our inhumanity to each other continues even to this day. It has been nearly 2,000 years since the birth of Christ and that significant event I spoke of earlier. Yet what have we learned from his teaching? What have we done to create a more perfect world for everyone? How ironic that in 2,000 years, we still have not learned to get along with each other in this, our planet. How many lost opportunities have we let slip through our fingers? How many opportunities have you allowed to slip through your fingers? How can we guarantee a better future? Do we wait for the process of natural evolution to occur, or do we help things along by starting a new revolution? Let me be perfectly clear. I am not advocating a revolution in terms of overthrowing the government. Please understand that. Neither am I advocating that you do anything violent. Rather, I'm talking about the revolution of the mind, a revolution of ideas, a revolution of principles, a revolution of fairness and economic justice. Because all of these will bring about the evolution of a better society and a better world for everyone. You see, evolution cannot work without a revolution of some kind. We are here and where we are today because of all the great revolutions that have pushed us forward, one after another, causing us to evolve whether we wanted to or not. You may think that in 2,000 years, we would have evolved naturally into the planet, whereby the virtue of the fact that we are all part of the same species, we would realize our connectivity and our similarities, and that we would not allow our differences to make a difference. But the truth is, we have not. All the old petty differences that have kept us at each other's throats, century after century, are still around. In fact, they seem even stronger in some ways. The only small advances we have made have usually been preceded by one kind of revolution or another. Consider, if you will, that the American Revolution spawned a new nation that became a model for freedom for the world. The Civil War was another revolution that pushed us closer to the ideals of freedom from which this country was founded. The Civil Rights Movement, the Harlem Renaissance, all revolutions that help us evolve into the society that we are today. I am merely suggesting that perhaps it will take another revolution to create the kind of world we all deserve to live in. Certainly it will not happen voluntarily. The 21st century will be our time. You are the new revolutionaries. You have the responsibility to bring about a change, positive change that will make better, not just for ourselves, things better, not just for ourselves, but for our communities, for our families, and for the next generation. The question is, what will you do? What will be your response to these challenges? So what is this new revolution that will lead to our evolution that I'm talking about this afternoon? It is, simply put, a commitment from each one of you that you will do your best to stamp out hatred and bigotry, racism and sexism, and any other ism that can be used to divide us from realizing our greatest potential. You are probably asking yourself, what can I do about all of these things? Well, first, you can decide that you're going to educate yourself. Do you realize what a revolution that would take place if millions of well-educated, technological, prepared people of African descent and what we could do? The ultimate outcome of such a revolution will be nothing short of an evolution of our entire society. I said at the beginning that education has the capacity to transform. If we're known for nothing else other than the existence of slavery during the 20th century, we will be known as the people who marched, who sang, who sat in and went to jails and died for basic human rights. I don't mind us going down in history under such a description, but the 20th century is coming to an end. We cannot go into the 21st century with the same old plan. Different times demand different tactics. I propose that we need to go into the new millennium with a new strategy. First, let's take advantage of all those rights that were so hard won as a result of all that singing and marching, especially the right to a good education. With such an opportunity available to millions of African Americans, both children and adults, if we really took full advantage of it, we could change many things. Education alone cannot guarantee equality, but it certainly can get us closer to it than being uneducated with no prospects for a better future. We have to build ladders for others to follow. That's one way we can start a revolution that will lead to our own evolution. If we don't begin to exercise these kinds of strategies, we will find ourselves in the new century complaining about the same things we did in the last century. Second, let each of us vow to do something in our community to improve conditions there. It could be as simple as joining a neighborhood cleanup, a block watch, or any civic organization that is working for the good of the community. Help is always needed, and it won't get done unless we all band together and do it. Too often in our communities, we are looking for someone else to save us from us. And I believe that we have the talent and the abilities to eradicate those conditions that afflict our community. You don't know what you can do until you try. You don't know what you can do until you try. And that is a challenge. Affirmative, positive thinking that I can do, that I will win, that I will succeed. When you go into a classroom, what is your mental state? Is it that I'm going to sit in the back of the room because I have not done my homework? Is it that I'm trying to hide behind my fellow classmates so the faculty member will not call on me or see me? Or am I going to sit up in the front of the classroom ready, prepared, knowing that I can succeed and do the work that is before me? So you have been given the strategies for success and the strategies for failure. The question is, which of those strategies will you choose? The choice is yours. We need to take some responsibility for the conditions of our communities and begin a movement to change them. Third, let's hold our politicians and public officials accountable for their promises. If they promise to get our streets fixed, a new sign put up, light repaired, we should be vigilant and make sure they do. We should hold our votes more dearly than we do. Believe me, they are a precious commodity. Just ask any politician trying to get elected. If we only give our votes to people who represent our interests, don't you think that would be a revolution? That in and of itself will be a revolution, because too often our vote from our communities are taken for granted. The point is that we are not helpless, nor are you hopeless. We have the ability and the opportunity to change things significantly in the next century if you have the courage, the determination to meet the challenge. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, Fannie Lou Hamer, Harriet Tubman, Dr. Betty Shabazz, and many others like them were revolutionaries in their own right. They were men and women who challenged the status quo, and as a result changed society for the better. Even now, we still have the opportunity to realize Dr. Martin Luther King's vision, where people are judged by the content of their character rather than the color of their skins. It was a good vision then, and is a good vision now. We can all play a role in making it a reality, but it must begin with you and with me. We know what we have to do. The only thing that remains is for us to do it. They also teach our children how to do it. Do you realize that your children can be the first generation to really live in the world our ancestors dreamed of for us? But only if we help them, love them, and provide the way will they be able to live in a world that our ancestors dreamed for us. We have to teach them that education is the key that opens the door to opportunity. We have to teach them that academic excellence is nothing to be ashamed of. We have to teach them that being smart is not being white. We have to teach them that they are beautiful and that they are wonderful and wonderfully made. That is our responsibility. Education is the best way to start a revolution. And when the education revolution starts, the only natural result is revolution. It is a known fact that once the mind is stretched, it can never go back to its original size. I'm convinced that we can do a better job of living on this planet together in peace and harmony than we have done in the past. And I'm convinced that we can live better lives in our community if we are willing to do what is necessary to improve the conditions there. I am convinced that education, as I've indicated, is the only equalizer left in our society, and that for those who have it stand a better chance of realizing success in the 21st century. I am convinced that by building ladders and bringing someone else along, as we attain success, we can begin to pull from the poverty and despair that keep us downtrodden and despairing. I am convinced that the only way to bring about evolution is through revolution. And if you agree with me, then let the revolution begin, and let it begin with you. But now you're probably thinking, but I'm only one person. What can I do that can change things? I understand your reason, but one person can make a difference. Sometimes it is easy to feel insignificant. We perceive ourselves as not mattering in the scheme of things. We think to ourselves, I'm only one citizen among all the citizens of this country. What can I do? I'm only one human being among all those on this planet. What can I do? It is easy to feel that way when we perceive ourselves as not mattering in the scheme of things. When we begin to look at what we do as incidental and insignificant in a cold and unfeeling world, when we do these things, it is easy to adopt an attitude of why bother? It doesn't matter anyway. Of course, we all feel that way from time to time, and each of you can have a limited pity party. We wouldn't be human if we did not. But it's important, however, that we recognize this for what it is, a momentary setback, a time when the pressures of the world have gotten to us, a time when we are momentarily overwhelmed by the demands of the day-to-day world. But because we are important and you are important, each and every one of us, and what we do does make a difference. It makes a difference now and tomorrow, the day after. And if you give up, if you feel that you cannot make a difference, then the difference we make will be a negative one. See, no decision is a decision. No decision is a decision. Many of us spend many times having negative things happen to us. The quality of our response to those negative things can determine our future. Just for example, if you went to Chase Bank on Nostrum and Empire, and you went up to the teller, and he or she was nasty, hostile, and belligerent, and you get an attitude, I'm going to tell this person off. Guess what kind of service you're going to get? Guess what kind of service you're going to get? You have to understand that you are in control of who you are. You are in control of your mind. You can control your response to negativity. And you need to be careful about how you respond to negativity. You are going to meet some faculty members here and wherever else you go that may not have the most pleasing attitude. You probably have already. So what? They have what you want, that is knowledge and the way of helping you explore the knowledge that's in that class and those books that have been assigned. So to yourself, make it a commitment and challenge that this is a challenge for me. And use it as a learning experience, because, ladies and gentlemen, when you go out in the world of work, you may find a supervisor who is a hell raiser. So the question is, how are you going to deal with that? Some people say, I'm just going to give them a piece of my mind. Well, if you do, there might be consequences that you might not be prepared to accept. Sometimes it is better not to speak, but to hold your voice. You are not supposed to speak everything, and some people speak before their mind get into motion. So the first thing you ought to do, seems to me, is let the mind get into motion first, become operational. Then hopefully it will influence what you say. Words become our reality. Words become our reality. Have you ever met folks, and every time you meet them, they're talking about something negative? You ask them how they feel, and they want to give you a whole litany of all their aches and their ills, and their grandchildren not doing this, and their children not doing that. And you say, I didn't ask for all of that. I just want to know how you're doing, let you know that I care about you. And ladies and gentlemen, don't let anybody else give you their excess baggage. Because there are some folks talking about being prepared for the third millennium will call you up at night and tell you all their woes. And then you begin to think about all their woes they've shared with you, and you can't go back to sleep. And guess what they are doing? Sleeping. Sleeping. They have given you their baggage. You have accepted it, and now it's messing with you. And they have gone on to do whatever they want to do. In addition to this, find friends who are going somewhere. Find friends who are going somewhere. You see, negative people and their energy will pull and zap your positive energy. Do you know that you generate energy, that vibrations, electrical impulses? Have you walked in a room and felt the negativity that exists there? If you haven't, keep living. Keep living. What I'm saying to you is, we have some control over who we are and what we shall become. But we have to allow that what we think and the mind to make the difference. I would say to you that with all the skills that you are going to learn, all the knowledge that you will acquire, there are some lifelong lessons that you need to understand and to appreciate if you're going to be successful. I could talk to you today about great philosophers and great educators, but what I want to get you to understand is your place in a broader scheme of things, and that you as one person can make a difference. And you, in terms of your own family, if you don't know it by now, if this live a little longer in terms of that relationship, you're going to influence that family. Education has a way of being contagious. It has a way of transforming and making a difference. And if it does not make a difference in terms of you and who you are and your perspective on life and your sense of yourself, then we have failed in the process. So it is up to you to make a difference. No man or no woman is an island. Some of you might think you got here all by yourself. And even if you think you did, you didn't. See, someone paid a price so you could be sitting in this auditorium. And you didn't create this auditorium, right? Nor did you create this institution. So you didn't get here all by yourself. But others unselfishly gave of themselves so that we could have this place called Medgar Evers College on Bedford Avenue, dedicated to the upliftment of a people in central Brooklyn of African descent. What a wonderful opportunity. So what are you going to do? You're going to waste it away, or are you going to use it? Because with the changes coming down the pike in our society, these opportunities may not always be available. Revolution or evolution? Revolution, you are in control, you are making the action come forth. Evolution kind of is unfolding that takes place. Unfolding that might not be at all under your control. But I'm saying be revolutionaries. Not to overthrow Medgar Evers College, not to overthrow the government, but in a quiet, special way, use the education, the knowledge that you will gain here to transform our communities. So as I close, you will hear me say this from time and time again. It's a statement that talks about the mind, vision, dreams, aspirations, beliefs, and action. Vision, goals, aspirations, and belief, and action. When you came to Medgar, you had a vision. You had a vision. However unclear it might have been, but you knew you wanted to get an education. And then you believed that somehow or another, with all the obstacles and all the challenges, that you would be able to enroll, right? Then what did you do? You filled out an application and you acted upon it, right? 3 things. Having a vision, having goals, having aspirations, having the belief that you can do it, and then acting upon it. Those are 3 strategies that will guide you for life. So it goes like this, the saying, and I want you to repeat it after me. If your mind can conceive it, and your heart believe it, then you surely can achieve it. God bless you.
You've been listening to a brilliant and inspired message brought to you by our illustrious president, Dr. Edison O. Jackson, one who has devoted himself to the improvement of the quality of our respective lives. As you listened, you heard him call to our attention that we are perhaps the last freshman class in the century. He also welcomed you to these halls of higher learning, reminding you that true worth is in being, not in seeming, in doing each day that goes by some little good, not in dreaming of great things to do by and by. For whatever men do in their sadness, and in spite of the fancies of youth, there's nothing more kingly than kindness, and nothing as royal as truth. He talked to you about transformation, self-transcendence, transcending that which is expected of you. He talked to you about education, as a door to the good life. He reminded you of one of Shakespeare's statements. You must find tongues in trees, books in the running brooks, sermons in stone, and good in everything. Yes, the revolution is on. The revolution of your mind, the revolution of your spirituality. You count, and you possess all of those qualities that will make you 100% a better individual. He called to our attention in his own words that each of us has different ways of becoming 100% better individuals. Some of us 33 and a third, 33 and a third, 30, others 50, 50, 50. Now is your opportunity to come before our president and pose your questions, questions related to this revolution and the resultant evolution. There is a microphone. Each person is invited to stand in line in front of the microphone, introduce himself by name and class, and address your carefully thought out question to our president. He will entertain one question from each person. So spend time and think it out and phrase it and present it in such a way that you'll be clearly understood. One question only. Please move onto the microphone. The mic is over here, to my left, to your right. We're now entertaining questions. There is no such thing as a bad question or a wrong question or a poor question. It's a question for which you want the answer.
Ladies and gentlemen, class, this session is not over, and you have no right to walk out. That's being disrespectful. I'm not concerned about me, but to your fellow classmates. And we are going to have other distinguished lecturers coming into this institution, and we expect to treat them with respect and dignity because we are people of that persuasion. This session goes until 1:20. 1:20. That is like if you go to a class and it is scheduled for an hour and 20 minutes and you leave in 1 hour, you'll probably be marked absent. So understand that we mean business, ladies and gentlemen. This is no plaything. Education is not a plaything. College is not a plaything. You can't do your thing and expect to succeed. It is about respect, dignity, commitment to excellence, and a commitment to yourselves first. See, it's important to know someone important because in this world, sometimes it's good knowing someone who's important. But to me, you know someone who's important. You know who they are? You. You. And that is why we have established these presidential lecture series to allow you to experience the knowledge and the wealth of love and achievements that you perhaps would not get in your classroom in the traditional manner. Where will you have heard such wonderful music free of charge? People pay big bucks at Carnegie Hall and A.B. Fisher Hall to hear such. Our attempt here is to provide you with an environment, an educational environment that's stimulating, that's challenging. And we have high expectations for you. Now that the camera is off, let me say something else. I don't expect to walk these halls and find you speaking using profanity. That is not the hallmark of an educated person. People who use profanity generally are lost for words. And the only thing they can come up with is you know what. And if you don't have that kind of a vocabulary to use great words, then we will help you to learn that. Brothers, do not disrespect these young ladies and not so young ladies. And sisters, if they do, what are you going to do? What did I talk about? Negative behavior and whether or not you're going to buy into it? You are not going to buy into it. You said, brother, get lost because you don't know who you are and who I am. And I'm like a queen from Africa. And therefore I must be treated as if I am royalty. So you cannot allow folks to drag you down. What did I talk about? You know? If that jugger goes, there's a better one coming. You got to understand that. Don't think that you have to settle for less than what you... My sisters, and my brothers, my sisters, it's a two-way street. Our men, many of them, are in danger. And you know, there is some truth to who rocks the cradle, who's at home?
The hand.
The hand? The hand?
Rules the world.
Rules the world. Now we have to understand that you have a responsibility in this partnership. If we are going to build new communities and better communities. Because as I look in this room, most of you are my sisters, and there are not a whole lot of brothers in this room. But you got to understand that we can take what you are getting and create a revolution through knowledge, and not to allow the past control you and constrain you in terms of what you will do in the future. See, I'm not going to talk about success in education because you'll learn that. I'm talking about living. Don't allow brothers to disrespect you. Don't buy into that nonsense. Don't buy into the media hype. You're not bitches and hoes. I'm serious. And when I hear students, I've heard young men talk about that in the hallway, and I looked at them and said, wait a minute, brother. And do you know what the sisters were doing? Laughing and lapping up to it. How dare you, sister, allow any brother to do that with you? You know, I don't like to use those words, but you get the message, right? You get the message. The rap artists, when they talk about us in that kind of fashion, and then we get into the show with them and say, hey, they are disrespecting you. And they're just disrespecting their mothers. Because whatever you are, so are the mothers. So we got to bring it home to understand that you are proud people and you are going to be great ambassadors for this institution. and I'm going to hold you accountable. And I hope all of my colleagues on this dais and faculty members in this room will do likewise. I heard a professor, and then I'll conclude. I got a minute. He said, and he was at a Ivy League institution, he said that the difference between a high-quality academic institution and one of average quality was that whenever students got an opportunity, they were reading a book, a newspaper, or magazine. So when they were standing in line for registration, they have a book. They go into the doctor, they got a book. You know you got to wait, right? So I look at that silly box they got in there. Why not read? When you're on the subway going to work or coming to Medgar Evers, what are you going to do? You got time. You got time. You have time. What did I say? 86,400 seconds. At the end of the day, you can't go back and reclaim it? Time. Time. You are beautiful, but I have high expectations. You tell your fellow students who left here and faculty members who teach those classes, I want you to tell them that that is not the behavior that I expect from them as Medgar Evers College students. You need to understand that this is no plaything. This is a great place, and you're great in being here. But we don't want anyone to tarnish our image or our impression. So be great, continue to be good. You're going to be successful. You are going to be successful. And every time you feel a little low, say, I'm going to be successful. Spoken words become our reality. I am going to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you, President Jackson. Two announcements, briefly. Remember, you were given a journal evaluation form when you came in. Would you take time to fill it out and leave it on the table as you depart? Secondly, how many of you are interested in jobs in business and finance? Anybody interested in jobs in finance? On Friday from 8 o'clock to 4:30, the U.S. Department of Commerce is going to hold a forum right here at Medgar Evers College, and there are going to be people from the business communities to come in and talk about the various opportunities in business and finance. It's free. If you're interested in that career or in those careers, come. You're going to get information that's going to enable you to be ahead of the game when it comes to finding a job. Are there any more questions? We'll see you next month, October, for Reverend Al Sharpton. Thank you very much.